This week I wanted to research a different way to make pasta from scratch. I've made pasta from scratch completely by hand before, and here are a couple of photos I found from my first couple of tries. Here's a drying rack I used to dry the dough once it was run through the pasta cutter. The times I've made pasta before, the amount of dough I've made has been too much for 2 people to eat. And so I just looked up a recipe online from KitchenAid and I used 2/3 of their measurements for my ingredients. I ended up using about 200 grams of flour, 2 eggs, 20 mils of light olive oil, and a pinch of salt. I decided to use a mixer instead of completely kneading the dough by hand because I saw one of my favorite drag queens, Shea Coulee, make a TikTok about how she used her mixer to make her pasta dough. In her TikTok, she says her dough was ready in about 8 minutes, but mine actually took nearly 10. It seems like I probably had more dough than she used, because she doesn't actually disclose her recipe in the video, so I'm not 100% sure. So after then 10 minutes, my dough was pretty much all combined and ready to take out of the mixer. My mum is actually studying a degree in food at the moment, so I asked her about the process and she said it wasn't necessary to use a drying rack this time. So after I take the dough out, I kneaded it and cut it into quarters and let it set before it's ready to cook.
Something I didn't know before completing the academic integrity credential was that proofreading can be a form of collusion, and that having someone read over and change around your ideas or help you develop your ideas can be a form of using someone else's work. It's really important to know this stuff before going into research assignments or just any assignment in general, because it places a lot of importance on putting forward your own original ideas that aren't influenced by someone else. I think the one thing that I can't help but think about when I think of YouTube is the capitalist side of it and how corporations and brands have really influenced what media we do and don't see on the internet now. And in terms of content creation, it's really something to strive for, to work for these big corporations and be able to endorse their products. The piece of media that has really stuck with me this week is not even really a new piece of media. It's an album called Control by SZA that came out in 2017. I've been listening to that album since I was 20, so it's just been really something that I've been growing up with and I keep going back to because it's been something I've listened to throughout the pandemic. I think it's been really important for me to be able to go back to something really familiar that I had before the pandemic, and it's been something that's stayed constant. So it's been really nice to have an album like that to go back to and remember who I am and what kind of things that I appreciate about myself.